So how do you guys go about making a TBR for an upcoming month? For me, this one was a little bit of a challenge because if you're familiar with the channel at all, I've been reading some very dense material lately. So when I looked into the month of July, I decided I wanted to make it a little bit of a summer breeze, if that makes sense. So I'm wondering, when you look at a TBR, how do you figure out what is it exactly that I want to read? Do you watch booktubers and maybe get some suggestions there? Do you wander the bookstores and look at the bookshelves and figure out, oh, that looks interesting? Or have you accumulated a giant stack like I have that you're just trying to figure out how to get through? Well, welcome back to BellTube, everybody. I'm Brian Bell, and today I'm going to share with you what I plan to read in the month of July. It's a lot different than it's been lately, like I said, over the last few months, mainly because the density of the material that I've been reading has almost literally broken my brain. It's just been a lot. If I take a look at what we've read over the last few months on the channel, we're talking about authors like Steven Erikson and Janny Wirtz, and the list goes on and on. GGK. We've done a book of Sun Eater every month for the last 6 months. This has been some pretty, challenging material in the SFF genre. So I think it's time we kind of settle down a little bit and get back into some more, I'm not going to say easier reads, but certainly a little bit lighter. And at the very end of the video today, I'm going to absolutely break every commitment I just made and talk about a book that I still want to kind of read anyway in the month of July. And it's absolutely the exact opposite of everything I just described. So let's get into the first book. And the first book that I'm going to be reading is called The Fealty of Monsters by somebody named Lades. It's either named Lades or they're named Lads. I'm not real sure. This is a Spiffbo X book. If you're unfamiliar, Spiffbo is the self-published blog-off competition that 300 people get to enter. Actually, more get to enter, but only 300 are drawn at random. And I am on Team Philip Chase. And it's my job to read 6 books between basically last month and October and pick out the one of the 6 that I think is probably the cream of the crop that I'm going to give off to Dr. Chase. And he will then read that book and determine amongst, himself and his other sub-judges if that's the particular one that's going to make it through the Team Philip Chase round. So The Fealty of Monsters, I really don't know very much about it. I'm going to put a graphic up here so you can see the cover. It looks like it's a fairly short book, which is kind of good for me right now. I want to knock these Spiffbox books out really, and I say Spiffbox because it's the 10th competition, and in Roman numerals, we've got X as the number 10, so I guess people are calling it Spiffbox. Anyway, long explanation short, I want to do these Spiffbox books right off the rip at the beginning of each month, just so I can say that I've got that part out of the way because it's a commitment that I made to Dr. Chase. The Fealty of Monsters, that's coming up right on July 1st. Okay, the next book that I'm going to be reading, we do a community poll each month in the community tab of BellTube. And no, you do not need to be a Patreon, although we do have a Patreon. Just basically all subscribers to the channel get access to that poll, and I put up a few books that I would be comfortable reading. I also leave kind of a blank 4th spot that if you guys want to throw in a suggestion and enough people get behind it, that might actually outdo the ones that I've put in the poll. Well, the poll has spoken, and with about, I think at last count, there's somewheres around about 19.2 million votes that have been cast. Okay, maybe not that many. Somewhere's around 7.5 million. Yeah, 7.5 million votes were cast. And the winner of the community tab poll for the July TBR on BellTube is Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. Again, I don't have a physical copy. I'm going to throw a graphic right up here. Now, my good friend Tori Tekken has been absolutely adamant that I get to this book, really since I met her over a year ago. I'm glad the community has spoken up. You guys are tremendous. It won by a pretty fair margin. I want to say this got over 50% of the vote of all the books that were, made available. I think that the second place vote was Tress of the Emerald Sea, which got less than half of the votes of Never Die. So as you guys, request, I shall deliver the next book up on the list after the Fealty of Monsters will be Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. The next book I'm super excited about to get to in July is The Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. And it's not going to be out, is it? Hello? Yeah, but I thought there was a cake. There was a dragon on a cake. Not July. August? This year? All right. Yeah, I'll tell him. Oh, the chicken marsala recipe was awesome. Totally awesome. Excellent. All right, I'll cut that one. All right, yeah, bye. Okay, so apparently The Winds of Winter is not coming out in July, so we're going to scratch that off the TBR list for now. What can I say? I'm an optimist. The next book that I'm going to be reading in the month of July was sent to me by one of our amazing patrons, Heidi, and that is Outlaw. And this is by Angus Donald. I really don't know much about this book, you guys, except for the fact that it's a Robin Hood story. That seems kind of par for what I'm looking to do this month, and it's not a real big book. It seems to be entertaining. Heidi and I's tastes align on quite a bit of books, so I think she's probably picked a good one for me here. I will let you know for sure in the month of July what I thought of this book, and if you guys want to go out and get it after that, that'll be up to you. But yeah, I have not thought about reading a Robin Hood book really ever in my life. So again, thanks Heidi for sending this in the first place. And yeah, it's just to kind of let you guys know that if you do send me a book for whatever reason, it's not likely to end up in a black hole for too long. We're a young enough channel and we're new enough that I'm trying to get to some of these books as quickly as I can. When we do the book haul video next week for the month of June, it's not quite as enormous as what we received here in May, but it's still quite a bit. I'm trying to get to as much as possible, but again, I do try to float these books that are sent by the community up to the top of the TBR when I think it fits kind of the mentality of where I'm at. Thank you, Heidi. Outlaw will be read in the month of July. The next book on the TBR is also from a community member here at BellTube, but also the author themselves. This is Palmer Pickering's Darktown. From what I understand, this has got 1 foot in LitRPG and 1 foot in fantasy or something like that. I haven't really done a whole lot of homework to find out about this book because I figured, why? It's not that long of a book. I kind of like to go into these books as blind as possible. I never read blurbs. I think I've mentioned that before on the channel. I don't read the back covers. If it looks interesting to me, or if I've heard about it before, or if somebody sent it to me knowing me as well as we can possibly know each other through the camera here, I'm going to just assume I'm going to like this book. So thank you, Palmer, for sending me this. This will actually wind up in the book haul video that I'm making next month, but Darktown, a LitRPG adventure, is on the July TBR, and I'm excited for it. Moving on, we're going to stay in LitRPG for a minute, and we're going to talk about a couple of Audible books. The first one that I'm going to be doing is actually, I can't believe this, but it's Zogarth's The Primal Hunter #2. I gave Primal Hunter really my first listen this month as I'm filming this in the month of June. It's really good, you guys. I would not recommend Primal Hunter as your first LitRPG book for reasons that I'll get into in the June recap. But if you're familiar with the genre, The Primal Hunter is where it's at. It's really good. So I'm excited about the second book. And I'm also going to try to get to Awaken Online. I think it is number 7 or 8 maybe. The book is called Timeless. I don't have a physical copy of it because, again, I'm doing it on audio, but I'll put a graphic up of it here. I love Travis Bagwell's Awaken Online universe. This has been a book that I've been meaning to get to. If you've watched these TBRs, it's been on like the last 3 or 4 TBRs. I just haven't had a chance to get to it. I think in the month of July, I have the capacity to do that Audible book. I'll get back to you. Again, that's provided I don't just jump right into the Primal Hunter number 3, because it's a pretty compelling series. But I do want to get caught up in Awaken Online, so we'll probably do Timeless. So that's 6 books already that I'm planning for July. But if you've noticed, none of them are very dense, none of them are very long. I think I'm going to be able to get to more of them. So here are the other 2 books that I have kind of in the back of my mind for July. The first one is Feet of Clay, which is Discworld. This is book 3 in the City Watch arc. I loved, Men at Arms was my book of the month a couple of months ago. I really don't want to put Discworld off too long because it's still fresh in my mind, this amazing cast of characters in the City Watch. So if I have time to do a 7th book, it might just be Feet of Clay by Sir Terry Pratchett. Again, I don't have a physical book. You're seeing probably the graphic right here, but I'm excited for it. I love Carrot. He's one of my favorite characters in anything I've read this year. So Feet of Clay is an option for book 7. And now I want to talk to you about the other option for book 7. So if I don't do Feet of Clay and I have all this extra time at the end of the month, which I think is going to happen, I'm going to be in a conundrum. Do I do Discworld, which is fairly lighthearted, or do I go back to my old ways of reading dense material? Maybe my brain will have reset and I'll be ready for it, but it's Malazan Book of the Fallen number 2, Deadhouse Gates by Steven Erikson. I've been saying for a long time that once I got caught up to Sun Eater, which I am now, that I would be returning to the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I loved Gardens of the Moon. It was fantastic. I don't really want to put this off until August, but I kind of want to see how my mind is doing towards the end of this month. My friend Tori Tekken sent me this book. Thank you again, Tori. But yeah, I really loved Gardens of the Moon, so I'm kind of thinking about doing it. You guys will hold me accountable. If I'm reading a lot of stuff this month and I'm seeming a little kind of worn down from reading, you guys should absolutely be sending me comments saying, hey, dude, wait a minute till you get back into Malazan. I don't know. We'll see where we're at in a few weeks. So I want to talk about One for the Road today. And for those of you who have been regulars, subscribers of the channel or regular viewers of the channel, you've already noticed a few things that are a little bit different. For one, I didn't start off today with Once Upon a Time. For 2, there was no intro animation at the beginning of this video. Why? Well, it gets me to the One for the Road today, and it's about adaptability. And I think that in some regard, I jumped into YouTube very much headfirst into the deep end. If you've been here since the beginning, you know I came right at this full board. I made sure I wanted the lighting to be perfect. I wanted to have a good camera that, I could communicate with you guys in as professional of a manner as possible. I wanted to read all the books as quickly as possible, but I really wanted to put on a show as well. And I think I've done that in some degree. But adaptability and flexibility is really a key part in any endeavor that we undertake. And as I look at the last 7 or 8 months here on BookTube, I'm noticing a couple of things in the back-end analytics that I want to test out a little bit. You may not believe this, but about 40% of the people who click this video or any of the BellTube videos turn it off during the intro animation. I love that animation. I spent so much time mentally plotting out how I wanted all those books to be flying through the library, all the searching that I did for the perfect adventure theme to go along with it. And so, yeah, it feels kind of strange not to throw the intro up, but I want to find out if people are really going to turn me off after like 15 seconds or 20 seconds. At least let it be because they don't like me, not because they don't want to see another YouTube intro. So we're going to try this out for about a month. There's not going to be the animation. I'm probably not going to start off with Once Upon a Time. I know you guys are probably very used to that. I love it too. But this is just kind of an adaptive change. I want to see, do we in fact retain more viewers throughout the course of the video? If we do, fantastic. Maybe it'll grow fast enough that I'll be able to bring back that kind of stuff. And if we don't, if people are clicking off of me right away, I'll know one thing for certain. It wasn't the animation that made people click away. They just weren't, vibing with, this vibe at all. And that's cool too. We can be adaptive. We can be flexible. I can always bring it back. It's not going anywhere. I want to thank the Patreons not the Patreons. By the way, they're called patrons. All you booktubers out there that have a Patreon, they're called patrons. Patreon is the name of the site. Members are called patrons. I want to thank my patrons. You guys have been just fantastic. A lot of the times, you guys, before I, make an announcement here on video, I'll ask the patrons. I'll say, what do you guys think about this? Or, I'm thinking about doing it that way. What do you guys think about that? So if you'd like to have a little behind the scenes type of input, Patreon is a good way to be able to do that. Of course, if you're here and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It really does help the channel grow, and it allows us to do a lot of things that I want to share with you this upcoming month. Subscriptions and subscribers really do help that. But you know what also really helps is that thumbs up button. It shows YouTube that you actually like what's on this channel. And when that happens, and when people watch more of the video, the algorithm will basically say, you know what, there's a lot of people that like this. Let's show it to more people. And I truly believe that if we had more impressions on other people's home pages, we'd probably be somewhere between 2 and 3 times the size of the channel that we are. And honestly, you guys, this channel has grown exponentially in 7 months. I'm extraordinarily pleased with what's happened here, but I know if we had more impressions, we'd be a bigger community. So that like button, the subscribe button, totally helps. Now, I'm fired up for this TBR. I want to know in the comments, what do you guys plan to read in July? And like I said in my opening question, how do you figure out what you're going to read for an upcoming month? It's of interest to me, and it forms a little bit of a direction of how I think about chatting with you guys, because I want to talk your language too. That's what I've got for you today. I'm looking forward to an amazing month with you guys. And of course, we're not skipping this part ever. Here's your fortune.